had 14 people in the race. I defeated a dozen of the fellas. I just have one more fella I gotta catch up to. Don't you think it's finally time we had an accountant in the White House? Don't you think we need to have mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75? And let me say this. I'm not being disrespectful when I say that. We all know people who are over 75 that can run circles around us. And then we know Joe Biden. Congress has become the most privileged nursing home in the country. It's true. These are people making decisions on our national security. These are people making decisions on the future of our economy. We need to know they're at the top of their game. It's not anything to play with. You've got a war in Europe. You've got a war in the Middle East. You've got North Korea testing intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of hitting the U.S. And Donald Trump said that he would encourage Putin to invade our allies. Now think about that for a second. Donald Trump's willing to side with a thug where 500,000 people have been wounded or killed because Putin invaded Ukraine. Donald Trump's willing to side with a dictator who kills his political opponents. Donald Trump's willing to side with a tyrant who arrests American journalists and holds them hostage. Donald Trump wants to side with a madman who's made no bones about the fact that he wants to destroy America. And you're going to side with him over our allies who stood with us after 9/11? I voted for Donald Trump twice. I was proud to serve America in his administration. But chaos follows him. And we can't be a country in disarray and a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos. We won't survive it. The RNC was always about winning seats up and down the ticket. And now, before the primary is over, Donald Trump is putting his daughter-in-law as the head of it. He's putting his campaign manager to run it. He spent $60 million in campaign contributions on his own personal court cases. And now he's going to make... And now he's going to make the RNC his own legal slush fund? We lost in 2018. We lost in 2020. We lost in 2022. But look, 2 weeks ago, Republicans lost the vote on Mayorkas. They lost the vote on Israel. The RNC chair lost her job. And Donald Trump's fingerprints were on all of it. How much more losing do we have to do before we realize maybe Donald Trump is the problem? I need you to go vote. I need you to take 10 people with you. I need you to get a yard sign, and if you're one of those people who can't have a yard sign in your yard, put it in the back of your car. I need you to call, text, email all your friends and family, because you would be amazed at how many people are just general election voters. And I want you to give them a message for me. In a general election, we're given a choice. In a primary, we make our choice. It's time for us to make that choice. Think about that. Trump would side with a thug where 500,000 people have been wounded or killed because Putin invaded Ukraine. Trump would side with a dictator who kills his political opponents. Trump would side with a tyrant who arrests American journalists and holds them hostage. Trump's going to side with a madman who's made no bones about the fact he wants to destroy America. And he's going to side with him over the allies that stood with us after 9/11? Think about that's pushing us more into war. In that one moment, he made our allies more vulnerable. He emboldened Putin. And he put our military men and women who are serving there at risk. We can't have that. Back to the basics in education. That's a mandate to secure our borders with no more excuses. That's a mandate for law and order back in our cities, and that's a... He didn't shrink government, he grew government. He rails against it, but he grew it. He didn't clean it up. He didn't take the politics out. He didn't do anything to reduce the size. He grew it, and we're paying for that. Then you go and you look at the fact that our national security used to be peace through strength. Growing our alliances, growing our friendships to intimidate our enemies. And now he's walking away from all of that, thinking that America doesn't need friends, thinking that he can get weak in the knees with enemies. We can't do that. That's basically an equation for war. And then you go look at the RNC apparatus itself. The RNC was always about winning seats up and down the ticket. Now, before the primary is over, Donald Trump has gone and taken the RNC. He's putting his daughter-in-law at the head of it. He's having his campaign manager run it. And they've made it very clear that now the RNC is just about Donald Trump. Now, he spent $60 million in campaign contributions on his own personal court cases. If this happens, all of a sudden, the RNC is going to be his legal slush fund. That's what he's going to have. It's going to be all for his personal court cases. I know, slush fund, I know. Right to work, they were doing amazing. Since Donald Trump became president, they lost the governor's mansion, they lost the state house, they lost the state senate. Because you don't have to turn on the news to see how tough things are. We're $34 trillion in debt. We're having to borrow money just to make our interest payments. China owns some of that debt. And I would love to tell you that Joe Biden did that to us. But I have always spoken in hard truths, and I'm going to do that with you today. Donald Trump and our Republicans did that to us too. You go back and look at that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill that they passed with no accountability, that expanded welfare, that now, hey Eli, that has now given us 80 million Americans on Medicaid, 42 million Americans on food stamps. That's a third of our country. And did Republicans try and make it right? Nope, they followed the tone of Trump and expanded out and opened up earmarks and pet projects for the first time in 10 years, pushing through 7,000 of them last year. Now, in the 2024 appropriations budget, Republicans put in $7.4 billion worth of pet projects and earmarks. Democrats put in $2.8 billion. Now you tell me who the big spenders are. All while 1 in 6 American families can't afford their utility bill. 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of American families can't afford diapers. Something's got to give. Don't you think it's finally time we had an accountant in the White House? How many more times do we have to lose before we start to say maybe Donald Trump is the problem? For the first time, we're spending more money in interest payment. Let's talk about national security. The world is on fire, literally. We've got a war in Europe. We've got a war in the Middle East. We've got North Korea testing intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of hitting the U.S. You've got China doing cyber attacks on our infrastructure. And now we've got Russia doing blinding satellites, so we can't see anything coming in or what they do. Donald Trump got on stage, went off his teleprompter, and said that he would actually encourage Putin to invade our allies. Now think about what that means. That means Donald Trump's going to side with a tyrant who kills his political opponents. That means Donald Trump is going to side with a thug where 500,000 people have died or been wounded because of Russia invading Ukraine. That means Donald Trump is going to side with a madman who arrests American journalists and holds them hostage. Putin's made no bones about the fact that he wants to destroy America. And Donald Trump's going to choose him over our allies who stood with us after 9/11? In that one moment, he made all of our allies vulnerable. He emboldened Putin. And he put every one of our men and women in the military serving there in danger. And what's happened now? Now Putin's got soldiers he's putting around the Baltics. Words matter. Moral clarity matters. We need a president who understands the number one job is to prevent war, period. You look at the fact, I told you that Donald Trump can't win. He can't win a general election. There will be a female president of the United States. The hard truth is it's either going to be me or Kamala Harris. And the reason I keep fighting, at first they were like, oh, she wants vice president. I think I've pretty much proven that that's not the case. And then they said, oh, but it's about her political future. If it was about my political future, I would have been out a long time ago like the rest of the fellas. The reason I'm doing this is I don't want my kids to live like this. I don't want your kids or your grandkids to live like this. Tuesday is election day. So this is what I need you to do. Vote. I need you to make sure that 10 other people vote right along with you. You all know family and friends, and you'd be surprised how a lot of them are just general election voters. I want you to send them a message from me. In a general election, you're given a choice. In a primary, you make your choice. This is the time for Colorado to make their choice. Thank you very much, Colorado. God bless you. Thank you. I said earlier this week that no matter what happens in South Carolina, I would continue to run for president. I'm a woman of my word. America will come apart if we make the wrong choices. This has never been about me or my political future. We need to beat Joe Biden in November. I don't believe Donald Trump can beat Joe Biden. Now is the time to renew that belief. Now is the time to remember who we are. We're citizens of the greatest country in human history. And we must lead now more than ever before. I'm grateful to South Carolina. I always have been and I always will be. And I'm grateful that today is not the end of our story. We're headed to Michigan tomorrow. And we're headed to the Super Tuesday states throughout all of next week. Thank you, South Carolina. Thank you to everybody who's been here today. Onward. Thank you. God bless you.
beat the odds every time she ran a race. So it's not over. It's delayed, but not denied. So wait till Super Tuesday. And if nothing else, this will be a reason for her to run again in 4 years, because the next 4 years of this country are going to be a mess.
I'm very positive about it. She has so much energy. People love her. I think her message rings true that right now in a primary you have a choice. And the choice, she's one of the choices. And I'm so proud of her for going on, and I'm proud of her what she did in the state. I wish more people had voted for her. But you know what? She really had a good showing, and people love her.
Yeah, one of the things for the Trump presidency, I felt like division between my neighbors and I felt there was a lot of division, and that's one of the things that turned me off. I want a leader that's going to bring people together, and I think Nikki's the person to do that.